Welcome to Ask GCN. My solo break has come to an end, so this week I'm going to be sat firmly in the slipstream of Simon.
You're going to give me a turn though, right?
If you're lucky.
We bet. I don't want to lead everything out and then have you out sprint me at the end. Done that often enough.
Anyway, shall we give it a go?
Yeah, sorry, let's crack on. First question is from Doug Hungerford, who says, if I don't have time for a long ride, what would be the best thing to do in order to get a good workout? Well, that is a common question, isn't
Definitely.
it? And the good news is that you do not need a long time to get a good workout. Far from it. In fact, often the most beneficial workouts are the shorter, high-intensity ones.
As I can testify, definitely.
Yeah, so short intervals, maybe 30 seconds to 5 minutes long, and you can do a great session in well under an hour, as in fact, a lot of our indoor training sessions prove. So there's one in the background there. If you click through to that, then you get through to a 30-minute high-intensity session, and that will work wonders. Check it out.
Right, 10 seconds. Find that resistance, find that gear. 100% commitment again. 2, 1, go! Come on, pedal! Sprint, sprint!
Did you notice that in that last video, Dan is doing an indoor training session wearing an undervest?
I know, just...
That's how cool he is.
How cool is Lloydie? Incredible. I don't know how he didn't internally combust. Anyway, next up we have this from Vishal Modi. I've been running for about 2 years and have been steadily improving, which is great, but I have a hard time riding uphill out of the saddle for more than about 25 or 30 seconds. I need to get back in the saddle and reduce the gears after that. Can you recommend some core exercises that will help me ride out the saddle for a longer period of time? Now this I don't think is particularly unusual, and we all get upper body fatigue, primarily in the arms when we've been riding out of the saddle. So that is quite normal for cyclists, simply because we don't use our upper body, because we don't need it. One rider who's quite amazing at riding out of the saddle and doesn't do any other work apart from riding out of the saddle is Alberto Contador. And I asked him this exact question, what do you do? He says, I just ride out the saddle, and he can maintain that for 20 minutes. But I think he is one person that is completely alone in relation to doing that. The best thing to do, we've had to talk about it, is to try and push past it and perhaps reduce your cadence, not sprint so much. If you're doing quite aggressive efforts, perhaps gear up a little bit and just rock out of the saddle, try and do about 100 revs up to a minute before relaxing and just practicing it, because practice makes perfect. Or you could augment that with some core exercises, which will definitely help a little bit without putting on too much bulk. And we've got 5 of those just up here.
Okay, this next exercise is a variation on the plank, which I'm sure most of you will have heard of. So prop yourself up with your forearms planted on the floor, directly forwards, elbows at 90 degrees, and then your toes planted on the floor at the back. And then get a friend to make sure that your body is as flat as it possibly can be.
Well, I must admit, so I was pretty happy with my plank efforts there.
So you should be.
But less of my planking. It's time for the rapid fire round.
Rapid fire. Okay, right, first up we've got Sean Coe, who's asked, what are the physical benefits to riding a fixed gear bike? I suppose there are no proven benefits, are there? There's no definitive proof, but riding a fixie does combine two very common and very effective types of training. So over-geared work, which is where you're riding in a gear that's too big, like riding your fixie up a hill, and then fast cadence work, which is obviously where you're riding a fixie down a hill, for example. And both of those things are really effective when done in separate workouts, although combining them together, I'm not sure whether that dilutes the effectiveness perhaps, but anyway, certainly both of those things are very good.
Number 2, this is from this kid. Hey, I'm first year under 17 boy, and nearly everyone is shaving their legs, but I would if it would make any difference. Doesn't really make any difference to performance at all. Not that we're aware of anyway. When I was 17, I did shave my legs because my dad told me to, because Bernard Hinault and Greg LeMond shaved their legs, and I kind of believe them. But from a practical perspective, if you're regularly receiving any kind of sports massage, it can be a lot more comfortable for you and for the person who's massaging your legs. And also, if you have a crash with hairy legs and you've got road rash, for example, if your legs are shaved, a lot less of the dirt and rubbish from the road will stick in the wound and reduce the risk of infections. And again, arguably it looks better, but please don't feel pressurized, it's completely up to you. Moving on quickly to Isawad77. How do you clean your bead-ons after a ride? What about you, Si?
I stick mine in the dishwasher actually.
I stick mine in the dishwasher too. If you haven't got a dishwasher, soapy water, give them a nice rinse out, give them a scrub as well, get off any little bits of mold or residue, especially with the kind of the drinks we get these days. They can be very, very sticky. Make sure they're clean because they can be a breeding ground for germs. Then dry them thoroughly before using them again, and you should get a fair bit of life out of your bead on.
Next up, question from Daniel Whitfield. He said, I'm not sure if there's a video on this, It probably is. But how do you build stamina for long rides? Well, it's an interesting question, actually, stamina. From my understanding of it, which may or may not be right, stamina, I think, comes in two parts. You've got your muscle endurance, so how well your legs can withstand the punishment of riding, and then also how much carbohydrate your body can store and how efficient it is at burning fat. So to build up stamina as such, you need to touch on both of those things. So muscle endurance is a case of doing sort of repeated and relatively hard efforts, isn't it? So that could be in a long ride, but equally beneficial could be shorter, harder rides. And then there isn't really any way to replicate increasing your carbohydrate stores other than to deplete them over the course of long rides. You can do fasted training, that works as well, but generally time in the saddle really does help for both of those things.
And it also, I think that you talk about, you can definitely train smart, can't you, for a shorter period of time where you'll get a lot of benefits, but sometimes, occasionally, it's important just to go for a long ride to get your body used to all the other effects. So, you know, your backside, for example, the psychological kind of differences for riding for 4 to 5 hours are really, really different, especially if you're looking at a long sportive or a big endurance ride. But train smart, but occasionally train long as well. And I think you'll then cover all of the elements.
Yeah, and of course, we do have a video, as you suggested. In fact, it's playing behind us. Check it out, how to do long rides. I can't stress enough just how important it is to start a long ride conservatively. If you set out too fast, then you're going to be burning carbohydrate instead of fat as fuel. And as we all know, unfortunately we've got a limited supply of carbs, even if we loaded up the night before, so we can see it's a bad idea.
Must admit, Si, I did absolutely love that shoot in California.
That was great, that was a great road, isn't it? Glendora Mountain Road.
Absolutely gorgeous. Highly recommend it. Now, thanks as ever for all your questions for Ask GCN. Please do keep them coming. Remember, you can put them in the comment section down below this video or, of course, on Facebook.
Using hashtag talkback as well, we can find them on Twitter too. Now, as we're in the midst of the cobbled classics at the moment, why not check out this next video, which is the top 10 facts about the cobbled classics? Because there is stuff there that I'm pretty sure you will not know. So why not click just up there and you'll get through to that.
A lot of cool stuff. Or for something completely different, how not to get dropped, in fact. How about clicking just down here?
There's some stuff probably there that you wouldn't know either.
Definitely. I learned a lot.
And what isn't explained in that video is why Matt ends up in a tree, or rather how he ends up in a tree.
I just can't remember what happened, but it was a bit strange.
Yeah, high speed.
Oh, and to subscribe to GCN, click on the globe.